Abigail here with the astrology of this week. Just a reminder of where we are in the astrology. We have just entered into Virgo season in the midst of the eclipses in the portal. We will have the final eclipse on Thursday this week. It is the final Pisces eclipse on the Pisces Virgo axis. We'll have one more eclipse on this axis. It'll be in Virgo and it'll be in early 2027. But there is something culminating in whatever house on your chart has Pisces. So paying attention to that. Also, it's amplified by being a full moon. So there is an element of release and of closure. So if you want to do any energetic release, cord cutting, cleansing, clearing, this is a great time for that. Cutting things off, tying things off, ending things. Looking at the house that this has been happening in for the last 18 months and kind of looking back and seeing the patterns. It'll depend on what house it's in. If it was in your 7th house, then we're looking at clearing and removing in relationships and a solidifying of the self because it's on an axis. So the 1st house in Virgo. If you have it in the 10th and the 4th and say it's in the 10th house, and this is a thing about jobs and career and legacy. And how that has been going for you, and also where and how you feel safe. That will kind of be closed out a little slower, the second part of that, because that's the Virgo eclipse next year. But something is coming to an end. I would look at what has been coming to an end and see if it associates with that, and connect those dots. It'll help you move through things. But I wanted to kind of just put that out there at the beginning, that to know that we're still in the heavier part of eclipses, and then we'll have a 2-week runoff after that eclipse, which will culminate in the new moon in Virgo, which will be eclipse free. So just know that that's where we're headed. But let's get at the top of this. So Monday, Mercury conjunct the South Node. This is, I think, going to be a strong indicator of some of the themes that we're going to get with the South Node passing through Leo. It can also be a bit of a trigger point of where maybe we are going to experience loss, or ways in which we have been betrayed, or ways in which people have not shown up for us or believed in us can be a theme of South Node in Leo. Also past life things, our failures, our victories, all of these things live with the South Node. And so Mercury is going to be highlighting and communicating that. So it's a good day to listen and to pay attention. Also on that same day, because the South Node is I also should point out this, it's at 29 degrees, which is important because it's an anaretic degree. All of the final degrees of each sign are anaretic. They're all 29. And it's basically a very, very energetically impactful point, is that kind of tipping point into the other sign. And so when we have aspects at these degrees, or if you have them in your chart, there's an element of intensity more so than other degrees. So just recognize that. Then we have Mercury moving into Virgo, which is nice because Mercury is domicile exalted in Virgo, and so it's very happy and very powerful. And this is great for business, this is great for communication, this is great for money because Mercury is the merchant. So commerce, trade routes, moving things hither and yon, all mercurial things. So this is when things might feel like they're starting to get a bit more under control, but we do have to wait for that final eclipse to really start to feel the shifts and changes that the eclipses have brought. But this feels like we're starting to slowly but surely get more of a grasp on things, which is always very hard to do in eclipse season. But what that means for Virgo season, which you can check out my video for Virgo season, which will be posted a few days before this is posted, probably if it's on Sunday, probably on Friday, last Friday, which goes over, the transits and what they mean. But what's nice about this is having Mercury in Virgo, we have a large portion of Virgo season ruled by its ruler. So there is a strength, there is a power, there's a clarity. While entering Virgo season on the eclipse makes it chaotic, having that Mercury grounded and well-resourced is going to be helpful and nice. So be glad that we have that there pinning things down. And, natives with Mercury and Virgo, often very smart, very academic, very clever, logical, decisive, clear thinking, can be overthinkers because it's a lot of energy to have in one place. But yeah, it's where Mercury is arguably the happiest. So it's going to be a nice energy to have for Virgo season. It is going to temper any of the other chaos we will encounter. Then on Tuesday, we have Neptune sextile Pluto officially. Now, just remember that these have been transiting each other for months. This is just the point of impact. And so there might be some realization when it comes to Neptunian and Pluto things. Neptune is the unseen and dreams and the mystical, and Pluto is death and the depths. So there might be some poetic or magical experience when it comes to death. This could also be a passing of someone. Now, when it comes to a passing, it's more of something that I would expect. It's not going to be a sudden thing necessarily, but very much giving the vibes of someone maybe going out in their sleep. And while it is sad and upsetting, it is within the cycles of their life, not a sudden thing. I'm thinking more on the world stage. We could see this, especially in eclipse season when that happens a lot. Also, this can be a wonderful energy to deepen your energetic practice. And because this has been going on for a minute, because A, the great outer planets have a huge orb, and B, they move so slowly, this is a slow impact that has been saturating and sinking into our subconscious and our psyche. Go back and look at when Neptune entered into Aries and started this sextile, which would have been sometime earlier this year. I'm kind of blinking. I was out in the sun today and my little disabled brain is like, we enjoyed it, but it was a lot. But there's that, and it's going to, I think, really kind of set the tone for this eclipse to be kind of witchy and mystical and really covering some deep themes. If you have lost anything through this eclipse cycle, it will bring up grief, but it is pushing for closure. It is pushing for healing and for digging up the depths so that you don't have to live in sadness and in amorphous grief for the rest of your life. The universe is begging us to find closure within the house that Pisces is in. Then Thursday, it is the day of the eclipse in Pisces at 4 degrees. I will be doing a video of it and a tarot reading like I normally do, so keep an eye out for that. It'll be posted probably Wednesday of that week, so the 26th. But what's a really fun feature is that there is a Mercury Cazimi right before it. And a Mercury Cazimi means heart of, it's an Arabic word, heart of the sun. And so it is going to be in the center of the sun. Mercury will have been under the rays, which is always tricky for planets. Like, the sun is lovely and beautiful and gives us light, but if you're too close to it, it burns you. And so having the planets under the rays or under the beams can cause some confusion, which is why I don't think we're going to get the full force of Mercury and Virgo till it clears the sun. But when it is in the center of the sun, it's almost like the eye of a storm, and we can get a lot of clarity and wonderful perception and shifts around the way that we think about things, especially with Pisces, the way that we move through energy. And with this kind of conjunction during an eclipse, it's going to be very, very potent and very powerful. So be aware of that. Also, it's going to be activating a Uranus square, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So it's kind of testy. There's a lot going on in the sky around it. A lot of the other planets are separating from other situations or moving towards other aspects with each other. And so it does feel like, especially during this eclipse, that the universe is kind of moving around the pieces on a chessboard to set up for the next move. And so know that if you don't know where you're headed during this eclipse, the universe is setting up the chessboard for the next move, for the next step forward. So have faith and hold on. Like I said, in the next few weeks, we will get more clarity. I do think we might have some kind of blinding clarity in the kind of vortex of the eclipse because of this Mercury Cazimi. So know that it's not all chaos and destruction and, something being eclipsed and covered and hidden. There is a lot of nuance and change within this. Also, if you were Mercury ruled, this week is kind of a big week for you with a Cazimi, with Mercury conjunct the South Node, with Mercury moving into Virgo. So know that you might be more affected. That would be Virgo risings, Gemini risings. If you have your sun sign or your moon there, that's also very important. And if you have a Venus in those signs, it can be very shifting. Same with Mars. Anyways, so this is the ending of a cycle. This is the finalizing of something that began 18 months ago. Like I said, it's not officially finished, but that one part of the chapter is over. So pay attention to what is ending, what is closing out. I also would encourage you, especially with the Mercury Cazimi, don't just focus on growth for growth's sake. I would encourage you to focus on the ways in which you have improved and pat yourself on the back and reward yourself for your endurance and your ability to change and grow and to heal in spite of your circumstances and in spite of what it brought. The last eclipse cycle was extra testy. excuse me, especially in the Pisces part of the chart, because we had Saturn and the North Node there at the same time, and Neptune, all crash in Pisces at once. So that North Node transit, especially it was in a very testy house, could have brought a lot of change. And I think this is an important moment to recognize that and honor that, and celebrate what you have done, even if you don't have everything together just yet. Don't just push that aside and keep pushing forward. Really give yourself some space to breathe and allow things to close out. I would encourage crying on this full moon if you will. Also doing a lot, like I said earlier, doing a lot of release would be helpful energy. And I wouldn't necessarily call in anything yet because we're still in the eclipses, but know that once you clear space, things will start to come in, and those things are very much led and guided by the eclipse energy. My kind of principle with eclipses is you can work with them to a certain degree, but you're better off most of the time just letting it kind of do its thing, because it will do what is best. It just may not seem so at the time. Then we are moving on to Friday, and that's where the Uranus square gets fully activated. The first exaction is Mercury square Uranus. This is chaos. This can be disruptions in communication. I can find it can feel kind of Mercury retrograde because it can be things kind of shutting down and turning off and shifting and changing due to that. So know that Friday, coming off of that eclipse, is going to be quite a wild ride. And quite intense, as the moon will also go into its exaction as well. Communication mishaps, shifts and changes. I could also see in kind of the outer world, like mundane astrology wise, I could see a lot of academic stuff and questions and processes coming in. Also, we've already seen that with the tragic passing of, I think his last name was Araday. I'm dyslexic, so I'm really bad at remembering names, and I hope I got it right. But he was a professor in the UK who got bullied to his death. He was a person of color. So I think there's going to be topics surrounding the ethics in academics and the ways in which we write and the ways in which we value stuff, and how, especially with Uranus involved, how a lot of our academia and our ideas around academics and intelligence are based in white supremacy and based in a system that is not fair and doesn't actually highlight the best of the best. It highlights the best of the white and the best of the men. Also important to note, the person who started these rumors is a well-known Nazi. Keep that in mind. But this Mercury square reminds me of that, and I think it is going to hopefully bring about better conversations and better ways of communicating. Also, if you are not a part of the astrology community, there has been a big scandal, I guess is what it's called. It's not a scandal if you've read any of Stephen Forrest's work. I have always picked and chosen carefully what I take from evolutionary astrology, but there has been a big thing because he has also been very racist. He is a descendant of a founding member of the KKK, and it has kind of torn the astrology community apart, with the kind of old guard wanting to defend and support and protect a white man who also doesn't apparently know how to apologize. And then younger people and people of color being like, hey, this behavior has gone on forever in the astrology community. We really need change, and we really need shifts. So Mercury square Uranus would not surprise me if someone else bites the bullet as well. And if we aren't trying to find solutions, but struggling to find solutions and cohesion, because the squares are resistant, the squares do struggle. But within the squares, there's an opportunity to change and to grow. It's just about us accepting and embracing and not avoiding the fact that we do need to shift and change and adjust and adapt in order to create a better world and to create a safer space for everyone. And like I said, with communication, you could have a lot of rocky communication on this day. If you have something important to say, I wouldn't do it. I would save it for maybe a little bit after. Also, I would not be signing papers on that Friday with that Mercury square Uranus. It's not giving, especially right after an eclipse. If you can help it, try not to. Then we have Sun square Uranus. This is us having to face the self and deal with the self and understand. Actually, it won't be square. What am I thinking? Sextile. Sun sextile Uranus, which honestly in my book is a very supportive, why am I blanking at this? It's not square. Yeah, it is square. Why am I insane? For some reason I was thinking eclipses and my brain got jumbled. Like I said, I baked in the sun today and I think I fried myself. Sun square Uranus, yes, because they're in the same place. Get it together, Abigail. So with Sun square Uranus, this is about the ego and the self and the need to change, but needing to change without fundamentally, we do sometimes need to learn better skills and coping mechanisms, but we don't need to change the fundamental self. The fundamental self is who we are. And so it's that battle of knowing what is us and what is our conditioning and what is feasible for us to expect from ourselves when it comes to shifting and growing and innovating, and what needs to remain the same to remain within the core of the self. And so I do think this day is going to bring up a lot of questions around identity and around the way we think and we view ourselves. I think it's going to have a lot to say about academics and about how we view intelligence and how we honor and respect it. I've been noticing online upticks in conversations about literacy. I could very well see big stats or news about literacy coming out on the 28th. So just paying attention. Also, this is a good week to ask, how can I help? How are ways that I can participate in community, that I can be a part of innovation, that I can be a part of change? Because the squares are going to highlight problems, and it's not helpful to just sit here and be like, oh no, I'm just going to sit here and talk about it. No, we do need to come up with something. We do need to come up with something. But sitting in that discomfort and knowing that we are still running off from the eclipses, so we can consider the change, we can problem solve with a change, but we may not get a solution till the next couple of weeks. But that is the astrology of this week. I do want to quickly peek into next week to see if there's anything big coming up besides the kind of shift away from the eclipses. On the bright side, the week after, it is a little calmer. I will still do a video, but there's less aspects. One retrograde starting, the Uranus retrograde, and then the week after with that new moon in Virgo moment, we do have quite a lot of energetic stuff happening. So just know that we get kind of a breather the week after this one, and then we're kind of back into the thick of it, if you will. Yeah, so that is the astrology for this week. If you have any questions or comments, please put them below. Also, once again, my brain died. I also am low blood sugar, if you can't tell. Me being like, I can do all of the things all at once today, and then crashing my system. But if you enjoy my stuff, please like and subscribe. Go follow me over on Instagram. I offer discounts. I offer special offerings and mini readings and pop-up readings over on my Instagram as a way to make things more accessible. Or you can just book one of my full readings, which I have a pricing schedule on that page as well. And if you just want to ask me directly, you can also always email me, and the email will be linked below in the description. Anyways, my loves, I hope you have a wonderful week, and I really do think that the closing of the Pisces Virgo eclipses, slowly but surely, because we're not quite done, I do think they're going to bring a gift. So keep your eyes open for whatever that gift ends up being. It will be dependent on where it is in your chart, so I would pay attention to that. But look forward to something closing out and being able to finish a cycle that I think was probably a bit painful, to be honest. But once it's done, it will be done. Or at least for another 9 years. Anyways, my loves, many blessings, and I will see you all later. Bye.